come the drums.
Live from the AM 950 studios in the Twin Cities and restrained only by FCC regulations, this is Pardon the Dissent. Now here is your host and agitator, Joey Vincent.
This is Pardon the Dissent. Today's date, September 14th, the year 2014. Producer in the house, Mr. Tony Williamette. Tony, how you doing, sir?
Oh, sorry, it's not a sports show.
Oh, God. You're going to make me vomit.
I want to talk about things that really matter, like Adrian Peterson. But,
like star running backs that beat the mess out of their children?
Right.
I found a new excuse for Adrian Peterson, though.
What's that?
He just wanted his son's butt to match Purple Pride. That's all it was. Anyway, screw football. I might take a few calls tonight, so if you want to, here's the number, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I do have a scheduled call-in tonight, and that'll be our good buddy Sanchez. He's going to call in and talk a little bit about what we talked about last week, which was a little bit about 9/11 conspiracy and what's going on with that. And he had some stuff to add to that, as well as some interactions he had with some people who heard that show. And it sounds like we might have changed a few minds. So I'm looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about that, and we'll bring that up probably in the third segment. If you want to call tonight, 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Now, if you were a regular listener and you listened last week on the live show, and actually on the podcast, I also talked about it there too. But on the 7th, 9/7, we talked 9/11 conspiracy, why people should be looking into 9/11, why they should be asking questions, and why it needs to be reinvestigated. A caller that we had that night, as well as a good friend of the show, good friend of mine, he was a caller that night, and after the show, he took the audio from the show, edited it down to just the section where we're talking about 9/11, and made a wonderful YouTube video of that section of talk that we had. And he put all kinds of associated video clips in there about the specific things that we were talking about, some still images about things that we were talking about, and then released it on YouTube. And it is a wonderful, about a 30-minute little video that gives you a nice little insight of the things that we talked about. But I want to bring him back on tonight because he shared that video with some people. He's got some great feedback about that, and he's got some other things he wants to share with us on the subject. So, Sanchez, are you there, sir?
I am, and as always, thank you for taking the call, and thank you for caring to discuss this issue, because, like I say, not too many people want to deal with this subject, so many props to you, Sue.
No problem. It's probably one of my most important issues to me, so I'm happy to talk about it. But I'm going to turn the floor over to you. Why don't you start first by telling us a little bit more about the video and the results the reaction you got?
A lot of people have reacted positively to it, but the one thing that I relate to you and what was so important about this video and your program last week is that you related on a personal level. You humanized it. You told a little bit about your own personal story of how you used to believe the opposite way, and I love the way you said the terrorists are coming to get us. And there are a lot of people, whether it's through cognitive dissonance or not willing to go down to the dungeon and deal with the monster on this particular subject, whatever it may be. Just saying that, Joey, helped a lot of people come to that bridge and cross it. And there's one person that is a benefactor of mine, and she is the person that pops up as the special thanks to person, Marlene Alvarado, at the end of my video. And she, up to this point, had never really investigated it other than just through superficial levels. So thanks in part to what it was that you had to say about your own personal experience, and then again, discussing this on such a cohesive level. There's no conjecture, there's no opinion going on in what you were saying. We're just trying to deal with the subject on a factual level. And being able to sit down and listen to this 30-minute program, she decided at that point, when she saw me the following morning, told me the first thing she says was, I'm going to have to look into that A&E 9/11 Truth video.
Good.
So your suggestions took hold, and this is how it works. A little crack of truth got in, and that's where everything begins. So in that respect, you did good, man. You did real good. So props to you on that respect.
Awesome. That makes me feel good. And I hope that other people picked it up too. It's like I don't want to force anybody to think any different way. All I want them to do is look at factual evidence, things that they can confirm, things that they can look on their own and not have to be led one way or the other. It's just there. They can consume it. They can make the call. They can research and do whatever. Now, Sanchez, I want to give you a heads up here on the time. We got 5 minutes left exactly. So I'm going to turn over the last 5 minutes to you, and we got your clip set up and everything.
Okay, so then anyway, later on in the week, while you had your podcast, there was also here in the city of Los Angeles at the Hammer Museum. This is no broken-down, hole-in-the-wall coffee house. This is a high-level, high-grade auditorium with professional guests that they get in there on a once-a-month basis to deal with global issues and social justice issues, things on a grand nature. And on Thursday, their 9/11 program dealt with the very same topic that you dealt with, the release of the redacted 28 pages of the official 9/11 report that we know as bunk. So what we had there in this 9/11 video, it's called 9/11, The Saudi Connection. This was presented by the Hammer Museum. Again, the guests are no conspiracy whack jobs. One was one of the former members of the 9/11 Commission, Senator Bob Graham. And the other guest was a former CIA agent, the man who George Clooney played in that film called Syriana. Right. His name is Robert Baer. So one by one, they offered their opinions, answered questions, and we have a few clips to go through here. First of all, on clip number 1, this is Bob Graham just talking to the audience, discussing the 28 pages and his own personal experience with them.
All right, clip number 1.
The 28 pages, as I said, are primarily about the financing of 9/11, and they point on a finger of condemnation at Saudi Arabia. And I believe that persons who are first-time readers of this information and have lived through the last 14 years in which Saudi Arabia's role has increasingly receded into the background are stunned at the facts of how engaged Saudi Arabia was, and almost to a person have then signed this resolution of discharge to the president urging that he release the 28 pages.
Now, once again, this is not conjecture, this is not opinion. Let me back up a second by saying that anyone who goes into that little room that you were talking about last week to read this 9/11 report must make a sworn statement that they will never leak the information or discuss it. So, Senator Baer, Senator
and if they do,
Graham,
just so people understand, if they do violate that, they will be locked in federal prison, just so people understand that there's a penalty for breaking that. And we got 2.5 minutes left, Sanchez.
Okay, exactly. So then Senator Graham discusses it as best he could on that level, but then Robert Baer backs him up and the report by saying on cut number 2 that this report contained bogus information. So hit it, cut number 2.
The problem is, I totally agree with you, is the fact that we had all this bogus intelligence before 2003, and if we keep on peddling bogus intelligence or withhold forensics from that attack on 9/11, the American people are going to lose complete trust in the government, and, where does it go from there?
Again, so this is a CIA agent agreeing with Senator Graham that we must reopen this investigation. Right. And finally, on cut number 3 here, Senator Graham was taking a question from the audience on written index cards. So one question that one of the people in the audience was asking about, well, what's going to happen to Saudi Arabia once these 28 pages that show that they were complicit in this 9/11 operation, what's going to happen to Saudi Arabia after this truth comes out? So hit it, cut number 3.
I believe in the intelligence and good judgment of the American people, and I will be prepared to support the outcome of letting the American people read the material, form judgments, use their capacity to influence decision makers. I think the course of that action will be enormously superior to the course that we are currently taking, whereby placating the Saudis, we're encouraging even more bad behavior.
All right, got 20 seconds left for you, Sanchez.
Okay, well, just check out the entire video, because then you'll get a better idea as to what these people were discussing. Again, no 9/11 conspiracy whack jobs, these people.
Right. legitimate sources, people that are in the know, a person that was on the commission, for God's sakes, is telling you this. To all those people who want to, make the jokes, tinfoil crazy conspiracy, this guy was on the damn commission. And he's telling you that the story is not correct. You need to look into it. Sanchez, thank you for taking time to make the call tonight. I appreciate that. And listeners, we'll be right back after this break. Pardon the Dissent.
The shadow government, the grand governor of the Federal Reserve, public enemy of the society, the one you cannot see, the 33 degree.
If you want to listen to Pardon the Dissent, but don't always have time to catch us live, each show is available as a podcast on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. You can also live stream Pardon the Dissent and listen to us no matter where you're at. Just go to pardonthedissent.com and follow the live streaming instructions.
Hold on, give me one right here. Hold on. You don't give money to the bums on the corner with a sign bleeding from their gums. Talking about you don't support a crackhead. What you think happens to the money from your taxes? Like the government's the addict. With $1 billion a week, kill brown people havoc. And even if you ain't on the front line, when Master yell crunch time,
Pardon the Dissent. Joey Vincent here, AM 950 KTNF. Before we go to the next story here, the last story here, thank you again to Sanchez for taking the time to call in tonight. Sanchez, I love him, the guy, to death. He's been great for the show. He really helps promote the show. I love all the activism that he does. It's all perfectly related to a lot of the stories that we cover here. So thank you again, Sanchez, for that. So
I admire your honesty.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Drill Sergeant. You had a question. What were your thoughts of what the segment we just did and the segment we did last Monday? We didn't get a chance to kind of debrief.
Yeah, as a layman in kind of the 9/11 Commission world, what's in it for these guys to start talking about this stuff honestly to the public?
It could be all kinds of things, is what I think. I know in Graham's case.
I mean, is it altruistic? Is it these guys just?
It's probably a collection of a lot of different things. In Graham's case, you got to understand that the 9/11 Commission from the get-go were telling the Bush administration that you're not allowing us to do our job correctly. That's on record. When the 9/11 Commission they number one, you got to remember, people who tend to forget things really fast. The Bush administration didn't want to investigate 9/11. It was like, oh yeah, these planes and terrorists, whatever. And they didn't want to do that. But it took the families and the survivors like, no, we want this investigated. There's something not right here. We want this going on. And finally, was it 1 or 2 years? Like, I don't recall what the time span was. But finally, they're like, okay, the Bush administration, okay, finally, we'll investigate this thing. And the first budget they offered up was something, I think it was like $6 million. Like, this is the largest crime in the history of the United States, maybe even the world. And they said, oh, here's $6 million. Here's to do your little investigation.
And the commission set up to be an objective, I say in quotes.
My objective was like all the people handpicked by the Bush administration. Like it's similar with the police departments. Hey, we're going to investigate ourselves, but it's kind of the same deal. But much like the Warren Commission was when we talk about JFK.
Would this have happened had the families just believed everything was planes, everything?
The only reason.
But because there's an investigation. Regardless. Let's say there's planes, everything, and there's no argument. There's an investigation about what happened.
You talking about prior to the commission?
Yes, just as a formality, there's going to be some sort of investigation.
Maybe by just calling, sweeping things under the rug, an investigation, there was going to be an investigation. Okay. Then there was this one. But then when the 9/11 Commission was brought together, they're like, no, we can't do this for $6 million. This is like, you got to understand, this is the federal government we're talking about. They can't change a light bulb without spending $1 million, right? But they said, oh yeah, $6 million. Then finally, I think the commission, gave them a hard enough time about it, and they're like, I think they ended up spending $13 million, which is still nothing compared to the scope and the size and the amount of evidence, if they actually looked at the evidence, the 9/11 event occurred. So there's no way to even say that they got a legitimate, investigation from there. So back to your question, I think that these people have had this all sitting on their shoulders for so long, but again, I'm sure a lot of them deal with the same things as like I've talked about before too. There's a stigma challenging the story of 9/11. It can lead to, you being, shunned and looked down upon, and shame. And I know I've talked about this before, is shame is the best way to control something.
Right.
If I shame you bad enough, you're an idiot if you talk about 9/11. You're a kook. You're a crazy. Where's your tinfoil hat? And it's the groupthink mentality. No, I want to fit in. I want to be like everybody else. I want to be liked. So.
But if anything, these guys are helping destigmatize that, and guys like Sanchez and you talking about it on the air.
I mean, in the last couple of years, it's really feel like it's loosened up, and I attribute a lot of that to work of like architects and engineers for 9/11 Truth.
Well, the last couple of months, even.
Yeah, even so. I mean, with the 28 redacted pages making the news a lot, there's only so far that they can. Keep
how about these guys
up.
speaking at a public forum?
Yeah, that's a huge sign there.